You're listening to SaskScapes, a podcast featuring the stories of arts, culture, and heritage in Saskatchewan. Nestled in the Wood Mountain uplands of Saskatchewan is an area teeming with natural wonders. Mastodons and three-toed horses once roamed the hills, but now it's my turn to roam. I'm Kevin Power, and today I am in Rockglen, Saskatchewan with my first guest, Dr. Dick Oakes, whose knowledge of Rockglen's history is most impressive. Now, I'm a train fanatic, so you can imagine how excited I was to meet Dick at Rockglen's old railway station, which is now Rockglen's Tourism Centre and Museum. So I am sitting in the railway station in Rockglen, Saskatchewan, with Rockglen resident Dick Oakes, Dr. Dick Oakes. Thanks for taking some time to meet me down here. This is like something from a movie set. So, Dick, are you originally from Rockglen?
I'm originally from just west of here, closer to Wood Mountain, and I took my high school here.
Right.
And my parents lived here from that time on.
Did you practice as a surgeon in the area as well?
No. I was trained in the States, Saskatchewan, and in the States, and then I went to Alberta to practice.
Right. So then, when you retired, did you come back to here?
Yes, I did. Actually, I had a sister. I still have. I have two sisters. One that passed. The one who passed. We came down to visit her, and I had my arm twisted, and it's still hanging sort of strange ever since.
There's no place like home, right?
Well, it's interesting to come back.
Yeah.
You come back, and I went to the doctor's office to get a prescription for my wife. Sat down in a row of about 5 people, and they started telling me what I did when I was 15, which is kind of intriguing when you come back after 40 years.
Wow. Stuff that you hadn't even remembered.
Hadn't thought about.
Right. And has it changed a lot since you were in the area growing up? Has it gotten smaller?
It is changing. It actually did get a bit smaller. It was around close to 500 when I left, and it was about 370, I think, something when I came back.
Right.
And since then, we've been picking up population again. So,
to what do you attribute the influx of people now?
Well, I'll tell you, it's tourism.
Yeah, right.
No, actually, it's. I think people have decided that this is a good place to live. That's they've. Sometimes you have to have pointed out to you what is in front of you.
Yeah. And
I think a lot of people never really took that into consideration. I didn't. When I left, I thought, well, everybody's got this, so why would I bother,
Right. It really is. I mean, it's beautiful. The geography is incredible. I must confess, I hadn't expected to see these kinds of rolling hills. It defies the stereotypical flat prairie.
Yes, there's a real history behind that as well, and that has to do with glaciation. And we're one of 4 places in North America that weren't glaciated or very, very lightly glaciated.
Right.
Instead of having, like in further north, the ice field was up to between a mile and a kilometer and a mile thick, and that much weight just bulldozed everything and flattened it out.
Right.
So. The hills here were one of the earlier sets of one of the early highlands in the country, and we're right where we are is about 2,600 feet, at the top of the hills out here, where the communication tower is just over 3,000.
Wow!
So this was actually a shore of Great Bear Lake, or not Great Bear, but Bear Paw Lake, I should say,
right.
And So as the glaciers came this way, they actually stopped and flowed around this area. It was high enough that it prevented the glaciers from advancing. So we have all the strata of soil that were built there in Inisha as they attracted to the world.
It must be quite a draw for archaeologists around the world to come to this.
I think they don't know about it.
Is that right?
Yeah, there was really very little in the way of stuff going on in some ways, although we have an archaeological dig on top of the hill where they found it's the richest Miocene era fossil beds in Canada, as far as I know. And we have fossils from a four-tusted mastodon up on the Effie Mattson Nature Walk and Archaeological Center. So and a lot of other things, like we have, like the concretions and so on. There's a whole story goes with this as far as that is concerned. And that usually is part of the Effie Mattson tour.
Wow. And so this train station that we sit in was built...
1928, 1927, and they were working on it. Winter of 1927, the trains that came here had to go all the way down to Cornack before they could turn around to go back. There was no place to turn until 1928.
All right.
And then they built a branch road out to Kildare, which allowed them to turn around here.
Right. The railway that came through was not just a passenger railway.
It was everything. They had a passenger car on every train, but it was a freight train with passenger car on.
Right. Right. And at what point did it cease to become a train station?
I was away when that happened. I think it was in the late 50s. As far as, and it used to be turned 180 degrees from what it is now, and was next to the tracks down where there are some trees just a block east of here. Right. And that's where it's at. And when when the CPR decided that they were not going to run trains down here, it was bought out by the Fife Lake Lines, and so it's a private line that's run by the RMs and so on, and goes as far east as Cornack and up to Assiniboia.
So are you saying it was actually repositioned?
Yeah, when they decided they weren't going to be there, then the people here wanted to keep the train station. They said, well, you can't keep it on CPR land. So they made them move it, and it's going to have to be. Where we are sitting we'd been looking up and down the tracks in this part of it.
Oh, right. And so your position here now is?
Volunteer.
Right. And is there a board that keeps the station alive?
It's a committee of the town, actually, right. Rockglen Distant Tourism Committee. And so it's all volunteer, and we look after the station, and the town looks after us, more or less.
Right. We should say that it's not just a station. It is the town museum now.
Yes, and we're hoping to expand the museum part and maybe be able to make more of a visitor, keep it as a visitor center rather than try to make a museum out of it.
Right.
There's way too much museum stuff to properly display it.
Everything's been donated by locals over the years.
Yeah, that's right.
That's fantastic. How many people would come through here in a season?
We had a few less last year. We were just under 1,000. The year before we were at 1,000, or just over 1,000.
Right. So it's...
That signed the books. Now there are more people who don't sign the book than there are.
Sure. Were there any interesting stories when this was functioning as a railway station that come to mind of the people that ran it, or the more colorful local residents in Rockglen?
Well, I could tell you stories about certain Dre people and so on that were characters on their own, but I think I don't want to get sued. Actually, when I was growing up, we were just friends with the station agents and the station agents' children who went to school here and so on. So we had several that rotated through while I was taking my high school. Mm-hmm. And but I don't have any really good stories about that.
Are there any station agents that are still alive?
I don't know that. We've had a gentleman move back into town whose dad was station agent at Cornack for years.
Right.
And he's there's an old Red Cross hospital up at the top of the street here that's been refurbished, and he bought that and refurbished it.
Right. And so when the train station opens at the beginning of the season, you were telling me you had a little bit of a bash.
Yeah, we have Dogod Day, and Dogod Day is sort of looked forward to it. We open and close a Dogod Day, and Dogod Day is actually fried bread, which doesn't sound too appealing, except when you put cinnamon and sugar and syrup and various other things that you want to touch it up with, and
Right.
it's a very favorite time of year for a lot of people. They all come in.
Right. I would expect that in a town like this, everybody knows everybody.
Everybody used to know everybody.
Is that right?
We have, we've had, 40 people moved in between the 2005 and the 2011 census, and there's been a lot more since.
Right.
And I don't really know what the population is now. But a lot of those people are, Jan and Neil, of course, are part of that group, but
Right.
they've been in for a few years now. So.
You're finding a lot of younger families in this area?
Yeah, it's a mix. I think we're getting overall to be younger than what it was.
Right.
But we still got a lot of retirement people here.
You've got a meeting room off to the side here with tables and a kitchen. Apart from the opening day, what else happens in that space?
We have a July 1st birthday bash for the people that are over 80 years old.
Oh, you have to be over 80.
Well, everybody comes to it, but it's to honor the people over 80. So.
And how did they make that decision? What's the history behind being?
There wasn't anything going on, and then we used to have out at Rockglen Beach, which is on Fife Lake, there was always ball tournaments and things like that.
Right.
And ball became less of a favorite sport and harder to find people to make teams, and so it sort of dropped off.
Right.
And so the 1st of July thing was dropped, and we'd had the 1st of July forever before. But eventually, after we came back, we thought, well, there are a lot of people here that are over that age. We usually have, a dozen to 15 or so that are over 80.
Right. There's a school here in Rockglen. I've driven right past it. So do you find that the students are taught to appreciate the culture and history around Rockglen? Are they aware of the train station, the significance of the train station? Do they hold it with the same importance as perhaps some of the more senior people would?
No.
No.
No, we're working on that.
Right.
We make sure that every year they get our tourism guide, and so it gives them we do a bit of a history thing in each one of those that lays out the history of this part of the country.
Right.
So you have, I think it's growing, but we still don't have the farm team. We need the farm team to have the team, and unfortunately, our team is pretty much made up of older people.
Right, because I should think that the concern is that the appreciation and the maintenance of a place like this needs to be passed on to the next generation.
Yeah, well, we're trying,
Right.
and we still haven't bridged that gap back to the high school group like we would like to.
Right.
I'll tell you that some of the people that built that are some of the toughest people in the world.
Yeah. We were discussing yesterday whether folks today could weather such adversity.
You start putting ties and replacing ties underneath of, and doing the work every day. They went out and replaced ties on their little hand carts that they used, and
Right.
And it was those people were not somebody you wanted to mess with. I know that.
And some of those guys I would expect are still alive.
I don't know of any. There could be.
Right.
We've lost a few in the last 15, 20 years.
Is that right?
Yeah.
How long have you been on the board volunteering?
Hey, it's Kevin. I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Just a quick reminder that the SaskScapes podcast is available for free on your favorite podcast app, or you can stream it from your browser. Check out the show notes for the link. On the SaskScapes homepage, you'll notice something new under the logo called SaskScapes Plus. You can't miss it. There's a big button saying support with a heart icon next to it. I'd love it if you could click on that button and help keep this podcast series going. When SaskScapes launched in May 2014, it was the first podcast in the province celebrating arts, culture, and heritage. In fact, you'd have been pretty hard-pressed to find any Saskatchewan podcasts. So I'd like to think that we paved the way. It's been because of your support that this podcast is now in its 9th year. Okay, that's it. Enjoy the rest of the episode.
We actually started in 2003, so it's 11 years now since we got tourism started as something to do here.
Right. And are you a rotating board?
I wish.
You wish. But I'm hearing this all too common theme of a dedicated group of people that in one way don't want to give it up, and the other way feel like they would like to pass the torch on, but who does that?
Trying to bridge that gap with younger people, and it's one thing about a town of this size is that you're always amazed at how much you can be involved in. There's all kinds of different groups that do things.
Yeah.
And a lot of the same people are on different groups, but they get spread out.
Right.
And to try to get them. Okay, so you have the group that does the rinks and the curling rinks, and then you have the school group, and then you have this group, and you have the Rockettes, who are an offshoot of the Kinnets that used to be around, and you just have all these groups plus the church groups and whatever. So.
Right. No, it is. It's quite true. I'm discovering in these small towns they're not lacking for things to do. They've really, which is great. What sort of activities are you most involved in outside of the museum?
Outside of the museum? There are a group of about 3 or 4 or 5 of us who put out our tourism guide every year. That's usually a couple of months getting that thing underway.
Right.
And we just finished getting it out last month. So, and then there's distribution after that. You have to get it out if you're going to print up any numbers. So.
How do you find the tourist guide? Can you write the town to request one be sent?
And you pick up one right by Gerald.
Oh, you pick up one. Right. It's right beside me for the people who don't have the advantage of actually sitting here right now. There's a way to contact the city to request one?
Yes, you just either go on our website, rockglen.tourism.com.
Right.
Or you can phone 306-476-2002, which is the other way of easily getting hold of some if you want them for your area. What we usually do is distribute through the Saskatchewan Tourism distribution system.
Yeah.
And then we have a volunteer group. Well, not a volunteer group, but whoever wants to take some with. Yeah. We just hand them out, and they take them wherever they go. So we've had them way down east. We've had them out in BC. People come through and they find out about things from things they picked up along the way in various places.
Right.
Put them in hotels. The casino in Moose Jaw, we gave them some this spring, and they were back asking for more. So wherever there's people that are traveling and would be interested, we managed to put them out there.
There's a festival happening in June, Art in the Park.
Arts in the Park.
Arts in the Park?
Yep.
Tell me about that.
Arts in the Park has been going now for probably about 7 or 8 years. No, maybe it's more than that. Probably close to 10 years. And it started as Arts in the Park being the Rockglen Beach Park out at Fife Lake.
Right.
And then it was moved into town, and it's actually holding the school complex now, so they can be either inside or outside.
Right.
That's the people that are interested in art and carving and various other things all do their work over the winter and display them at Arts in the Park in June.
Right.
Which,
and you can purchase the art as well?
They're all available for purchase, and
right.
and they do quite frequently demonstrations of they're doing, like if you're doing pottery, they have a potter that comes this local, and
right.
and he'll do pottery while you're watching and show you how it's done, or tile, where they do the mosaic tile and so on. They do all these things and show you how you paint and whatnot.
There's a lot of clay to be found in this area.
Yeah, this is a very, very rich and very varied kinds of clay. We
right.
have bentonite and right. When you get to be my age, you get a disc overload, and that's my story.
Right. The various.
But there's actually
determine
pottery
how long
clay
it can
in
be.
the area as well.
Yeah. The kind of heat that they can withstand, it varies. From same type.
And the quality of, and the whiteness of whatever
Right.
you're making and so on. It
Right.
has to do.
You've got a lot of local artist work hanging in this space. Tell me about some of the locals that are still living here that are represented on the walls of the train station.
Well, the artist that's been probably here the longest is Sandra Lamontagne. She has some work that's been in the Governor General of Saskatchewan's residence, and she's actually just gotten better and better over the years. She amazes me. Jackie Ryan has done a lot of the wall murals that there are in town.
Right.
And oh my goodness, Wanda Noss is an excellent photographer. We have part of the group of 7 here, or group of 10 here that do photography. Neil, of course, is come down from Regina, and he has his studio where it's predominantly Native American and wildlife. He just does an excellent job. And yeah, I know I'm missing many.
But that was really the launching point for me creating these podcasts, was that I know that Saskatchewan is just riddled with small towns that, and in these small towns live artists that are extremely prolific, do wonderful work, and we never hear their stories. Not everybody gets a book published on their work.
No.
Yet they deserve to have a voice. They deserve to be heard. Have they written any kind of a history book on the train station or on Rockglen?
There have been 2 history books in Rockglen. There's the Rolling Hills and then the Rolling Hills 2.
Right.
The Rolling Hills 2, I think, was put out in the 80s, something like that. There probably wouldn't be a bad idea to update that one, but those are the 2 that have been done. There hasn't been anything specific to the train station that I'm aware of, although I'm sure there are people that would know more about it than I do.
Perhaps that's the next thing on your to-do list.
You never know.
Do you do any art yourself?
I drew when I was a kid.
Did you?
I never followed up on it. I got a little busy.
Right, with the surgery thing.
Yeah.
How many doctors are in Rockglen now?
None.
There are no doctors here.
No, we have a nurse practitioner that comes down once or twice a week.
Right.
But other than that, we have to go to Assiniboia for medical care.
I know you're a surgeon, but have there ever been any calls in the middle of the night saying?
No, I've been very fortunate. I got down here, and they think of me as being the same guy that left. And
right.
so they don't think of me being a doctor or a surgeon or anything else. I sit in conversations, and they're talking about medical stuff, and I just let them talk, and it's kind of interesting.
Oh, that's good.
They don't even think about asking or anything. They just go ahead and tell me all about stuff that they know.
They still think of you as the 15-year-old kid.
Whatever, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you can never go home again, but I sometimes I just don't think that you can ever actually leave.
You can never leave it behind.
Yeah.
Regardless whether it's a favorite idea or a bad idea, you have it and it's there.
Yeah.
It's for me. It's been an excellent move to come back.
Right.
In World War II, actually, there were more people came from the prairies into the Navy than there were from other places, which is kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah, my dad was actually a member of the No. 8 Canadian General Hospital, which wasn't the Navy, but they were originated out of Dundurn.
Mm-hmm.
And even though he was born in Nova Scotia, they picked up guys on the East Coast for shipping out to England.
Mm-hmm.
And so Saskatchewan played a huge part in the Second World War.
It's getting to where we only have, I can't think of more than 2 or 3 of the people that were in World War II in town now.
Yeah, there are very few in the province.
But we were very fortunate because one of the gentlemen who just passed left us his complete kit with his helmet and his binoculars and his whole uniform, his dress uniform, his sleeping bedroll.
Wow.
And that just came in, so that'll be part of the display when we have space to display.
Right. You'll need a mannequin to display that, maybe.
Yeah.
At least go vertical.
Yeah, it's much better if you have something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's fantastic. That you said he just recently passed.
He passed this last year.
Right. Yeah, we're losing them very quickly.
We are. I have a sister who was in the CWAC, and she's turned 94. Lives in Medicine Hat.
All right.
But,
do you see her often?
Not often, no. We get together for Christmas and, once or twice a year if we can.
She's still able to travel at 94?
She's not traveling much now, but she's actually doing better now than she did 8 or 10 years ago.
Right.
It's interesting.
Hardy stock, prairie folk are.
Yeah, well, you have to be.
No kidding to weather all this, but well, you picked a good place to come back to. It really is quite striking here.
Yeah, and I found out a lot. I grew up here and thought, well, this is just the way it is, and when I came back, I just looked around and I said, my goodness, there's so much here and there's nobody doing anything with it. What's wrong here?
Right.
What's wrong with this picture? So you ask people, well, yeah, I've heard of the old Sitting Bull main camp out there by Wood Mountain, but I've never been there. I don't know why I don't go there, but I don't. And virtually anything else you talk about, oh yeah, I know, I've heard about that, but I've never gone there and I've never done that. And I still like to get about 3/4 of the town out to see what there is because they don't go.
Well, I think that's true of even big centers. When you live locally, you rarely do the tourist thing.
Exactly.
But I think that's probably one way to pass on the tradition of caring about keeping this history alive, is to get people to see things that only tourists go to.
Yeah, and you need to because this area. Well, the Wood Mountain uplands are just a famous part of the West. The Wood Mountain itself was one of the, and Willow Bunch were 2 of the main centers when they put the border through.
Right.
They were really, Indian Head, Willow Bunch, Wood Mountain, Fort Walsh, and that was all one trail. That was a Wood Mountain to Fort Walsh Trail. This goes west from Wood Mountain, and Wood Mountain to Willow Bunch goes north of here. Wood Mountain to Fort Benton. That the Sitting Bull went back down when he left the country. That's all this is in that part of the country.
Yeah.
The Métis that came out from the Red River. We have a pile of people with Métis history around here, but. They came here because they hunted this area when they were in the Red River. They would come out west in the summertime with maybe 1,000 or more carts, and they would hunt the summer and go back for the winter. And it's a very interesting piece of history through here.
You're obviously a key part of keeping that history alive.
Try.
I think it's fantastic. I hope that your enthusiasm gets passed down to the younger generation. Well, thank you for taking the time to let me poke around the train station. It was I could spend the afternoon here. I'm glad I got here.
Well, I'm glad you got here too, Kevin.
Thank you so much, Dick. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, for sure.
Dick and I continued talking, and he really wanted to show me Rockglen's historic nature walk, named for a former Rockglen schoolteacher, Effie Mattson. So I hopped in the car and followed Dick to the other side of town to the base of a very prominent hill called Columbus. A local resident turned up to meet us there, a deer. So now we're in the Effie Mattson Nature Walk and Archaeological Center. Tell me, who was Effie Mattson?
Effie Mattson was a grade 2 teacher who was here for a number of years, and she was a avid naturist, and every year she would take her grade 2 classes up the hill here in town we call Columbus, and the other hills around, and they would scour the hills to find what they could find in the way of fossils and rocks and every other thing. And over the years, she developed quite a crew of people that were interested in archaeology and that sort of thing. So this actually is a section house that belonged to the same CPR stuff that was down at the station. Mm-hmm. Was moved up here for a wildlife group, and we bought it from them about 6 years ago. So now we have a place right on the edge of the nature walk, which involves an entire hill that people can come in, get an idea of the landscape and what causes it, and the archaeological findings and so on. Right.
And is Effie Mattson survived by anyone?
Yes, her son still owns this land. We actually have it as a sort of not a gift, but at least we have the use of it from the family.
Nice.
Which is kind of nice.
And the family lives here still?
They still do, yes. Yeah, there are several of them around that are from that family.
We just saw a deer gallivanting behind the building on its way perhaps up a mountain that's behind us, I dare say. By Saskatchewan standards, it's a mountain. What is that particular hill called?
It's called Columbus, and it's been, as far as I know, that's been the name of it for as long as I've been around, since the 40s. So.
Right. It's hard not to miss. It's pretty dominant in the area.
The town is partially wrapped around that, so it makes it obvious.
Right, and you can hike that mountain?
Yes. It's a free hike that we have fenced on all sides, and so you just hike anywhere you want to within the fenced area is the Effie Mattson Nature Walk.
All right.
What we have in here, Kevin, is a few displays. These are shale on this side, with a lot of plant fossil appearances. You can see this would be a fern, and this has all been found locally here and brought in. The pictures on the wall of the various plants and so on is quite incomplete. We have a really wide variety of plants that thrive in
prickly pear cactus.
Yes, we have those, and we have pincushion cactus.
Right.
And you have to watch a little bit when you get toward the top of the hill, because they sometimes reach out and get you. We have a display of Aboriginal tools and Aboriginal handiwork. These were done by Lakota. The hand tools are very common here, and if you know what you're looking for, and a lot of them are that shape, those shapes, you'll see that they're abundant. The rock that is sort of a pink-colored rock is rock that was used probably by the Stonies, the Assiniboines, because they cooked with rock. They would heat up the rock and throw it into their cooking pot. And those rocks would often shatter, and they would often have this pink discoloration of something that's in them.
So these would date back to around when?
Oh, we have no idea.
Wow.
They weren't into planned obsolescence. They last as long as rocks do. So.
Right.
They're not ancient. There are some that go back 8 to 12,000 years in the area, but I'm not smart enough to know which ones those are.
We'll say they're old.
They are old. These are all fossils and concretions and petrified wood and shale that has various kinds of plants and so on in it.
Right. There's trilobite fossils.
Yes, those things are probably millions of years old.
Indeed.
They're really quite old. And these were found on the hills actually, and those are underwater.
Oh right, there's
fossils.
shells embedded in rock.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's this valley is actually a glacial outflow valley, and at one time would have been part of a lake, a proglacial lake.
And these have all been saved by locals
people.
over the years and donated to the space?
Yep. These are the four-tusted mastodon fossils that were found just up on top of the hill.
Oh, right.
About maybe a kilometer from the top of the hill as you're going west.
So we've got the front knee and the front tibia, the pelvic spine, and the tusk. Wow, the cap of a femur.
The jawbone for this is in the Royal Museum in Regina, actually, the same find.
Oh, right. Who built this model that we're looking at?
This was done by some summer students that were here a number of years ago, sometime in the 80s, I think. And we need to get their history.
I'm quite surprised that this is not well known by archaeologists around the world.
No, if you're into the Miocene era and so on, yes, it is.
Right.
But otherwise, no.
But it's not common to stumble upon an archaeological site. You said there's just one in the area right now.
Yeah.
Has hunting season officially begun?
No.
But there is still a designated hunting season?
There is a designated hunting system, and they've actually been hunting elk in this country, for the last few years or some of that.
Right.
We have the very odd buffalo go through, and that are wild on their own. The West Block has put in a herd of buffalo, but the East Block has not yet. So.
Right. The town clearly takes pride in its history. For such a small town to be able to have these kind of facilities to show it off is wonderful. Do they bring students through here still?
We bring in groups that are, whenever someone says, well, we're kind of interested in archaeological things, and we're going to bring them up, and then they can do the hike on the hill and find the rudimentary coal and ironstone. There's ironstone up there, the same as was was found on the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Scotty at East End. It was encased in ironstone. We have ironstone on the hill. We have a lot of different kind of fossils and so on.
Someone wanted to hike the hill. How long does it take to get up, roughly?
It depends
on the average person.
The average person. Ordinarily, 20 minutes or so, or 30 minutes. We'll take you, unless you're interested, and if you get interested, we think you're going to be there for quite a while.
Right.
Thanks again to Dick for a great visit and an introduction to what would turn out to be a phenomenal time in Rockglen. Thanks for listening. The SaskScapes podcast is created by Kevin Power as part of the Culture Days Animateur program operated by Sask Culture. Funding to the cultural sector is provided through the Saskatchewan Lotteries Trust Fund for Sports, Culture, and Recreation. If you want to hear more of these podcasts, or to see the great work being done by other Sask Culture animateurs, please visit www.iheartculture.ca. Special thanks to Paved Arts in Saskatoon for their technical support. Music for SaskScapes is provided by Saskatchewan-born singer-songwriter Jeffrey Straker. There is no end to the stories to be told. So, until next time,